Hi everyone and welcome back to ThursDev. My name is Luke, and as unsurprising as it may be, we have another Overwatch video today. This week, in Game Design Breakdown, I'd like to take a look at a mechanic that is integral to the team shooter genre that, unfortunately, perhaps thanks to a large number of new players getting their first taste of team shooters with Overwatch, appears to be less well known. The key to winning literally any match in Overwatch or literally any team shooter game, today I'm talking about the objective. For each currently existing game mode in Overwatch, the conditions for victory in the game always rest upon one or both teams occupying an objective for a set amount of time, uncontested, in order to win. Whether the objective itself is a static area of the map or centered around a moving object, as is the case with payload maps, ultimately, the win or loss of the match is decided by which team can spend the most time on the point while denying the other team. Today, I'd like to inspect the mechanics of the point and give a few insights as to how they function and how they really define team shooters. For each map, there are up to 2 areas designated as objectives. This number is variable based on the game mode, and the nature of the point also differs between payload or escort missions and King of the Hill / capture point missions. After setup time in each map, the point is unlocked and both teams are required to occupy a finite space in order to take control of the point. When one or more members of a team are present within the direct area of an otherwise uncontested objective, the objective is put in a capturing state. This can be counteracted if one or more members of the opposing team also occupies the same objective, which puts it in a neutral contested state. The capturing state has a differing function depending on the game type. In a King of the Hill or capture point map, referred to as Control and Assault in Overwatch, the objective is a static map feature. Visually represented by a glowing border that extends above the ground, it's clearly marked for both teams to see, and colorized to allow the player at a glance to know which team currently occupies it. In addition to the border line, the objective also has a floating UI element that's visible to all players regardless of distance or obstruction that shows its designation, A or B, depending on where it falls in sequence, its current color, and whether it is currently being captured or not. Between control and attack play modes, the behavior of the objective diverges at this point. In the control game mode, either team is able to capture and must hold the objective for 2 minutes. Capturing the objective is accomplished by members of one team being present on the point for 10 seconds total without being contested. While capturing, at least one member of the capturing team must be on the objective in order to advance the capture. If one or more members of the opposing team are present on the objective, the capture timer stops progressing until the objective is no longer contested. If the capture is interrupted, not via contest but due to the capturing team vacating the objective, the capture status remains at the level it was when the last member of the capturing team left the point for 5 seconds before returning to its neutral state at a rate of 10% per second. Counter-capturing, when the capturing team is forced off of the objective and the opposing team begins to capture, removes the current value of the opposed team's capture at the same rate it generated until it reaches its neutral state, wherein it immediately begins to capture normally at the same 10% per second for the new attacking team. This tug-of-war persists until one team manages to fully capture the objective, after which time the team who has captured the objective becomes the defending team and must prevent the attacking team from capturing the point themselves until they've held the objective for a total of 2 minutes or a rate of 0.83 seconds per percentage point. This percentage continues to increase regardless of whether the point is contested or not until it reaches 99%. The 100th percentage point, which declares victory for the capturing team, can only be gained when a point is uncontested. If the objective is uncontested when the counter reaches 100%, the game is won instantly. If the point is contested at this time, the game enters a state of overtime. Overtime is a sudden death counter which gives the attacking team a final opportunity to capture the objective. If the attacking team can gain control of the objective uncontested long enough to capture it themselves, overtime is cancelled and the other timer begins or resumes for the new defending team. In the Assault game mode, many of the same principles apply as with Control, with the marked difference that one team is the designated defender and another is the designated attacker. In this mode, only the attacker can capture an objective, and it's the defending team's responsibility to prevent the objective from being captured for a total of 5 minutes. In Assault mode, unlike Control, the capture timer is subdivided into 3 sections, which I'll refer to as capture thresholds. Upon gaining an advantage on the point, the attacking team generates capture at a rate of roughly 4% per second. If one of the capture threshold points is exceeded, the capture timer will no longer drop below that threshold, meaning that even if an attacking team is repelled successfully, it'll take less time overall to capture the objective in subsequent attempts. If the first objective in an assault map is captured, a second and final objective is activated further into the map, which must be also captured in order for the attacking team to succeed. Upon capturing the first objective, an additional amount of time is added to the clock, giving the attacking team a boost in time available for them to attack. Finally, there is the Escort game mode, also commonly known in other objective-based games of the genre as Payload. In this mode, the objective isn't a static location on the map, but instead a mobile object referred to as the payload, represented as a vehicle in-game that moves when the team puts it in a state of capture. Any player within roughly 2.5 meters of the payload is considered to be on the objective and influences its capture or contested state. In Escort, there is a designated attacking and defending team similar to Assault. The attacking team is responsible for traveling with the payload along its fixed path to a final destination. While the attacking team occupies the payload and it is uncontested, it moves at a rate of 1.5 meters per second forward. While contested, this motion is halted, and the attacking team must repel defenders in order to continue to advance the payload. If the attackers are repelled and the defenders put the payload in a state of capture, the payload remains in place for 10 seconds before beginning to retreat along its path at a rate of roughly 1 meter per every 3 seconds. Also similar to Assault, the payload has a number of checkpoints along its path, which, if the payload reaches, time is added for the attacking team to complete their escort, and the payload may no longer be pushed back by the defending team beyond it. In addition to the checkpoints, there are also elements of the map that serve to block backward motion in the form of large doors that open for the payload to pass through, then close permanently once through. To round off the game modes of Overwatch, there are also hybrid Assault Escort maps, which begin with an Assault-style capture point, which then transitions into a payload escort if and when the first objective is captured over a 30-second capture time. In all of the above game modes, the objective defines the win-loss condition of the match, therefore becoming arguably the most important mechanic in the game. It drives a constant tug-of-war between the two teams involved in the skirmish, while players are attempting to capture or contest the objective with the goal of preventing the other team from achieving victory. Though win conditions in each game mode, with the exception of control maps, are asynchronous, the basic premise of capturing and occupying the objective is consistent across all game modes, and for either team. Be on the point, don't allow the enemy team on the point. It's a very elegant design principle which also informs the rest of each map's design. Each individual game map in Overwatch, and indeed any given professionally developed objective-focused team shooter game, builds their maps to focus on objectives as large, open areas with multiple corridor-type inroads connected by choke points. A close look at any map's design shows that while there are some very well-defined choke points in general, the area surrounding any given objective usually has no fewer than 3 inroads from which an attacking team can enter. This design favors the attacker in that the defending team is required to divide their attention among a large amount of possible avenues of attack. An attacking team has the ability to strike from a number of positions simultaneously, possibly catching the defending team unawares, or at least forcing them to thin their defensive line in order to deal with all threats at all angles. Conversely, while leading up to each set of inroads, there is typically an area of reasonably defensible choke point, where the defensive team has the ability to set up more effective defenses at the cost of potentially leaving their actual objective vulnerable to flanking attackers. In the case of the Escort game map, the map takes on something of a knotted rope design of alternating choke points and side corridored attack areas that center around the payload's checkpoints. Due to the nature of the mobile objective in an Escort map, no one area can be entirely choke point or flankable attack zone, creating a notably labyrinthine system of smaller hallways surrounding the larger one that the payload traverses. This is further reinforced by the general design of the characters of Overwatch, particularly in terms of their ultimate abilities. Though each of the characters in Overwatch are by no means tailored to only working gameplay modes that center around capturing and defending objectives, most ultimate abilities are designed with a focus on close quarters combat or defense against a multi-angle attack. with the exception perhaps of Hanzo's Dragon Strike, which is still most commonly utilized to clear off an objective from an unexpected angle or to deter an incoming attack. Most abilities are close area of effect, designed to clear opponents off an objective. The most notable exceptions in the area of effect ultimates are those of McCree, Soldier 76, Widowmaker, and Symmetra. In the case of our two gunmen, their abilities are effective at clearing a point, but also offer a surprisingly adept defensive utility in that they can deal with attacks from multiple points of ingress at once by not requiring the player to point their weapon at every incoming opponent, instead defeating everyone on screen at once. Widowmaker's ultimate ability is similarly themed in that its primary use is in immediately identifying to friendly players which direction they are being potentially flanked from, allowing mitigation of defensive weaknesses. The greatest odd man out is Symmetra, whose ultimate is more geared toward getting players back to an objective as opposed to actively taking or defending it. In closing, I think it stands to be said that the central mechanic of the objective is one of the key differentiating factors between Overwatch and its ilk from the average first-person shooter. Coupled with the game's heavily lopsided but purposeful character design, it's a subgenre of the FPS where teamwork far outstrips the usefulness of any one character, and the design centered around keeping all players focused on a very specific point of combat keeps every melee high energy and intense in a way that the average deathmatch does not. Awareness of the objective in a given match is the key to victory in any game, and though the defender may not feel as obligated to occupy the point in the way that the attackers must, it is imperative that each player is concentrating on keeping the point their own and contested at best otherwise. For a detailed breakdown of the ultimate abilities of Overwatch, I created a ThursDev video recently that covers just that topic. Otherwise, aside from a large amount of Overwatch-related content, ThursDev focuses on game development and design with an odd game mechanic breakdown like this one. We also have a weekly show we call Serious Sundays, where I usually rant about something video game related. This most recent week, I had a much less eloquent argument for why players should protect the objective in Overwatch. I was feeling salty that day. Feel free to check that one out, as well as lots of retro and modern Let's Play content on our channel. Hit that subscribe button down below if you want to keep on top of our daily new episodes. Hit that like button as well if you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it. And please feel free to comment below if you have anything to add to today's video or want to see another specific game mechanic broken down into its component parts. But for now, thank you as always for dropping by, and I hope that I'll see you again very soon. Take care.